I've had a gentleman tell me I can't do anything for you because you do everything, for yourself. And that entire, independent woman syndrome. I'm here to tell you, some of us, we are independent because we have to be. It's not necessarily that we want to be. The fear of being, in my middle age. I know I look young, barely over 25, but to start that journey again, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go back into, the dating pool and it's just the nuisances that you have, being more mature
Yeah.
and, being single. So my now ex had shared with me he had a 3-year-old son. Well, I found out, and I hadn't met the son, was thinking the son was in another country. And I find out later on in our marriage that this 3-year-old son was actually born the day we got engaged when we were out on a vacation somewhere.
Today's guest is a mom, has operated in private practice in Austin over 17 years and is licensed in Cali and Texas and has served on various boards since graduating from Parker University in 2005. Her leadership has proven effective in both civic and professional arenas. She has been featured in the Austin Chronicle, Austin Community College, and Austin Fit Magazine as well. Brave Arts community, let's show some love to Dr. Kirsten Shepard. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Sean, for having me. How are you?
I am good. I'm excited about this topic about life after divorce. And of course, this has been a series that has done really well on YouTube. So thanks again for being willing to share your story with us. I'm excited about this topic. First of all, I want to ask you, who inspired you to become the woman you are today?
Mm, wow, that's a very profound question. I think first answer that comes to mind are, of course, has to be, my parents, my mother and my father. But, we all know that it takes a village. And I was fortunate to be poured in to by a lot of pillars in the community. I grew up in Houston. I know there's a lot of uh, watchers from H Town. I grew up in Houston, Missouri City, Sugarland area, and a lot of the leaders at church, a lot of my aunts, knowing the history of my ancestors, my grandmother. So, any and everyone that showed me something positive in my life and helped me learn from my own mistakes gently, help shape who I am.
Awesome, awesome. Love it. It definitely takes a village for sure. I think we're missing that today. We need that village back.
I agree, especially now.
Don't let me get started. Can you share with us how long you were married and ultimately what led to a divorce?
Okay. So my most recent marriage was 3 years. We dated for a year before we got married. And what led to the divorce was a history of lies and just dishonesty and distrust. And I knew I deserved better. I felt like this man kind of wined and dined and wooed me. And once I said I do, it was a completely different, like a 380, completely not 360, but a 380.
Mhm.
380, he was still turning. And it was shocking. I was also not in the right mindset. I was very close to my father, and he passed away in 2017. I ended up getting married in 2017. So part of my grief, I think I replaced with the joy of this relationship and the fact that this gentleman, had met, my father, but everyone in my family, most of my friends, with the exception of one, loved and adored him as well. And so I oftentimes look at myself and my perspective as being a good judge of a person's character. And I can, I was raised in H-Town. I was born in Chicago, so I can usually see through, what my father would call the dumb shit and or the dumb stuff, pardon me.
Yeah.
And I didn't see what I didn't want to see because there was, some cloudiness, but he did, exactly, what he intended to do in that first year before we did cross that aisle.
Mhm. Mhm. And so this happened the same year that your dad passed?
It did. So my father was terminally ill for a couple of years. He had mesothelioma, which is the asbestos cancer, and I was a daddy's girl, very close to my father. I knew what you know love looks like, healthy relationships look like, no daddy issues here. But I also was kind of blinded because I was grieving, knowing that he was terminally ill and the excitement. There were red flags that I'm pretty sure I ignored. Looking back on things, and we often do that, whether we're grieving or not.
Yeah.
You go through those different phases in a relationship. And when someone, shows you one side of them and then you see a completely different side of them, it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Anyone, if you have questions for today's guest, please feel free to drop those questions below because I have somewhat of a similar situation with my ex-wife because her mom passed maybe uh 8 or 9 years into our marriage.
Mm.
Um, and just seeing her go through that process, like it's tough. And then we were already having our own marital issues, so just trying to navigate marital issues and losing, your mom or one of your parents. It can be devastating. Like, how did you handle that during that time? Like, or how did your ex, how did he help you in that season? Did he help
Oh,
you get
he
through that season?
was so supportive. Good question. One of the things that he did, he showed up for me. My father was living in Dallas with my sister, going through some of his treatments in Houston at the drop of a dime. Sometimes, if I couldn't get my father on the phone, I would just drop everything and want to drive to Dallas to make sure he was okay. And this man was willing to chauffeur me, at a whim because, of course, he understood and, he wanted to help and comfort me and do what he could during that time. Um, and it's really difficult. Grief in itself is difficult. Um, but again, I'm looking at, oh, he's showing me so much love and admiration. And, it was kind of like that knight in shining armor that, we dream about.
Yeah.
And it's not like you want that Captain Save a person, but you want that knight in shining armor, that gentleman, just stop by, flowers to cheer you up, come by, bring you lunch at the office, and
Yeah.
just very supportive, very supportive.
Hmm. That's good. That's good. Yeah, because I remember losing my dad right before I got married, or maybe that first year within
Mm.
our marriage, but I knew he was going to die. So eventually, um, I don't think the blow was as hard, and then
Mhm.
I didn't know him the way I felt like I should have known him. So, um, you know, in the words of Tupac, he would say, my anger wouldn't let me feel for a stranger. So. Um, I kind of felt like that because that's a whole topic within itself, just the grieving process. What has been the most surprising thing you learned about yourself after divorce?
Hmm. I think after the divorce, for me, the most surprising thing is I had to learn how to forgive myself because I was angry with myself. I was embarrassed for putting myself and, my child through, a situation. Um, no, not many of us want to be divorced. We don't go into marriage thinking that we're going to be divorced. So, looking at it as, it's a failure. I failed again, with, a relationship. So the biggest thing that I learned was I have to be gentle with myself. I
Yeah.
need to forgive myself, just like I forgive others, and allow myself, some time to really process, what had happened, what choices. And I think the biggest thing was knowing that, it wasn't my fault that the marriage failed and that I did the best thing for myself and, my child at the time in ending that marriage.
Hmm. Yeah. When you talk about forgiving yourself, what are maybe some common practices, some things that let you know like I'm healed, or like were you journaling? Because a lot of times we hear people say that I forgive myself, but what did that look like for you?
For me, I took an entire journey on a deep dive into self-care. So just to put a timeline on things, literally, I had asked this man to leave the day everything was shutting down for the pandemic.
Mm,
So that gave me quite a lot of time
yeah.
to spend some time in my own skin, to allow myself to process things without, the normal life distractions that I think, would have been a lot more challenging had the world been open and operating in normal capacity.
Yeah.
I definitely sought mental health coaching from a relationship coach, which helped me navigate through that process immensely. And I grew my relationship with God, very deep. So that was number one. I had to get back to being close, close to God and having that relationship with God. The mental health journey, physical journey. I started running. I went from couch to 10K during that period to where, I never liked running, but I could barely run two houses, much less to be able to complete an entire 10K. And I just started really, going back to loving myself.
Mm,
I was never relationship dependent.
mhm.
So I always knew my value was not dependent on a partner,
Yeah.
but I want and seek, to have someone that I'm equally yoked with. And I thought that this was a person, professional businessman, exposed me to a lot of things that, I'm still grateful for, a lot of aspects of the relationship. But being married to an individual that could not be completely transparent with me, that was a deal breaker.
Mhm. Good. What has been the most challenging part of rebuilding your life as a single woman?
Mm. I think for me, the most challenging part of being a single woman is running into old friends that are like, "What, you're not married?" Like, it's
Mm,
something wrong with me because I'm not married. But we know a lot of individuals that are out there that are married are not happily married, or they're going through the storms. And marriage, for anyone that's out there that is married, kudos to you because it's hard work,
yeah.
and I think that just, realizing, the capacity, the potential within, And then, the fear of being, in my middle age. I know I look young, barely over 25, but, to start that journey again, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go back into, the dating pool and, it's just the nuisances that you have, being more mature
Yeah.
and, being single.
Mm. Yeah, because I want to talk about that a little more, but I want to take a quick break and I want to take a minute to talk about the intimacy card deck that my wife and I created, and we want to play a little game. So if you haven't got your intimacy card deck yet, you can check it out at scaredtoremarry.com. You can go and get it under the products tab. It's great for date nights. So, Dr. Kirsten, I want to ask you one question.
Okay,
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, I'm about to let me see. Let me see, because this is an intimacy card deck, but I want to make sure that I ask. Uh, oh, here's a good one. Um, how do you define forgiveness and how do you practice it?
Ooh, that's a good one. I define forgiveness as completely letting go of someone that you feel has wronged you. Oftentimes, there can be miscommunications, and we can perceive things differently than what they are intended for.
Mhm.
So for me, forgiveness is not just, forgiving someone and moving past, it's also forgetting that. And I want to be forgiven and forgive in that same manner.
Mhm. Yeah. That's good. So how would you practice that? What would that look like in a relationship? Well, I guess you said you would practice that as forgiving, like letting it go kind of thing.
Letting it go completely, moving on, accepting, we're all human
Yes.
and the only perfect person,
Mhm.
is not of this earth.
Mhm.
And so I feel like we have to treat others better than what we want to be treated.
Mhm.
And there's exceptions to forgiveness. You can only forgive so many times, with certain aspects as well.
Yeah.
And so you have to set boundaries
Mhm.
in addition to that forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree because I think a lot of times in relationships we forget about the boundaries. We sometimes think like, this person is this is the person for me. And sometimes we just kind of forget about the boundaries because we're like, they're gonna treat me good, right?
Mhm.
And but when those boundaries aren't enforced, it's easy for people to overstep those boundaries. Um, I heard a therapist, her name is Dr. Spirit. I don't know if you've heard of her. Dr. Spirit. She does like a lot of celebrity therapy sessions with people. But she said her and her husband have a 90-day rule where anything that happened after 90 days, we're never gonna bring it up. So
Mm.
you have this window that if it's bothering you, you have up to this time to deal with it and process it. But she said after that, nope, it's gone because she was saying too many people live in the past about past things that happened while life is still life and now. So I found that to be quite interesting.
That's good.
Uh, how has being a doctor influenced your approach to dating, and what challenges does it present in finding a partner?
Well, I think being a doctor limits the contact and interaction that I would normally have, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I feel that most potential suitors can be intimidated because of that aspect.
Mhm.
Um, I've learned in different relationships that depending on how strong an individual is in their manhood, It can be a challenge if your partner makes more than you, although they may say that's not an issue.
Mhm.
It can become an issue. So it depends on the individual.
Yeah.
I have found in specifically my past relationship, you're so excited, and able to support me, with different events, different activities, different ventures that I have. But then I saw a side of jealousy at some point, showing up to these events late, but then you're patting me on the back or standing to the side,
Mhm.
and it hurt. That can be hurtful.
Mhm. Yeah.
That can be very hurtful.
Mhm.
And I think that's a big challenge when you're dating a non-professional or even a professional who might just be having a hard time.
Mhm. That's good. So, do you find that, do you think it's harder to date someone that's possibly on your level, or does it really make a difference? Maybe just in your experience, or even some of your colleagues. Like, do you find that
Mhm.
more challenging?
I think in my experience, I'm an equal opportunity dater. I'm like, as long as you can treat me like the queen that I deserve to be treated,
Hmm.
I'm fine with it. I do see a lot of challenges, and, my other professional single girlfriends, have shared the same.
Hmm.
Um, I've had dating experiences where, I've had a gentleman tell me, I can't do anything for you because you do everything, for yourself. And that entire, independent woman syndrome. I'm here to tell you, some of us, we are independent because we have to be. It's not necessarily that we want to be, you know. And I think there's a lot more conversations that need to be had. And it takes a special man to have the confidence, to be able to converse and date someone who is a professional if they're not.
Hmm. Yeah, because I read a book some years ago, an audio book, and it was called "Why Why Marry a Man You Don't Need," something like that. Uh,
Mm.
but this lady, she's professional. I believe she's a doctor as well, or something, or she made a lot of money, something. But it just gives the breakdown of the mindset. Like that has to be a struggle for a lot of women, especially if you can do everything for yourself. But like you said, I think it depends on the man. I think it depends on his confidence, um, and knowing that it's not all about money. Because I mean, every relationship shouldn't be just built on finances, even though it's important. But
Absolutely. I don't think money buys you happiness.
right.
It's more about the conversations, how that person makes you feel, what do you have in common? And I had a friend, one of my good friends, Karen, her mother, God bless her soul, was a professional woman, and her father was not. Now they stayed married like almost 60 years, but one of the things that she said is, that should never be a factor. And I wasn't raised in an environment where, you have to have this pedigree in order, to date me,
Mm,
and I feel that, if you're truly a team, we're going to have ups and downs. You
yeah.
know, sometimes things are going to look real good, sometimes they're not. But if your relationship is built on status and finances, it's
Yeah.
not going to last. I
Mm,
mean, yes, money, you need to talk about budgets and how people view money,
of course.
which was another difficulty that I had in my marriage that I was not aware of, because he was a spendthrift and I wasn't.
Mm,
And but that created an entire different set of challenges, which wasn't the ultimate reason why I got divorced.
yeah. Yeah, and that can cause a lot of tension. I had a financial coach on here not too long ago, and she said, and we have a comment as well, but she said she like it. She likes it better when the woman is she's more. Oh no, when a man is more like financially mature.
Same. Mm-hmm.
When a man is financially mature, because he's able to say no. She was saying like men, we say no more than women do. So we're more likely to hold on to our finances. Not saying it in the form of being stingy, but just knowing that
Mm.
we just can't help every single time, everybody, like we have a household to take care of too. Because she was like, a lot of women, they'll give away the farm, trying to help somebody you know,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so much more. But that was a whole conversation piece, but it was a really good conversation. Uh Tanya Gilliard, I believe she real estate, she says too many men actually want to be the woman and then become mad at the strength a woman has to carry.
Ooh, I like that. And I would somewhat agree with that. I mean, if we look at traditional roles as what we saw, most of us grew up or have elder relatives.
Mhm.
And if we look at the success of those long lasting relationships from the past, we see traditionally the man was the provider or, but they always pulled everything. And I may get some flack from some folks,
It's
but
all
I
good.
feel like a lot of issues we have, especially in our community, is the fact that there's a lot of absent fathers from the home, right? So we don't have that. We have more single women raising kids. That's across the board, across every ethnicity right now. I don't know what those statistics are, but some of these women are raising these men who are still breastfeeding no matter how old they are. And there are women that will date said men and not have any expectations. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go to work and you just sitting on the couch when I come home. That's just not what, or just date someone just to say I'm in a relationship. And that's where I feel there are women who are relationship dependent.
Mhm.
And it's not about the quality. Like, what are you bringing to the relationship? Like, this is what I bring. What are you bringing to the relationship? And that creates a whole another issue. You could probably do that's another topic for you. Just don't. I call them just don't do nothing. And, a lot of these mothers have raised, unfortunately, in my opinion, have raised, men that, like baby boy. Remember baby boy? Like we
Baby
go back to
boy.
baby boy.
Yeah, you want some eggs? Yeah, yeah. Want some eggs?
Yes, where mine at? You gonna kick me out? Well, hey, you should have been out a long time ago, riding your bike around, borrowing your girl's car. Like, but eventually he got it together, which was good. But it's that's a huge issue, I believe, as well when you're looking at dating.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a topic within itself. Because and no shade to single moms, love y'all, love y'all, love my single moms. Y'all know I do, but I do believe that especially if you have a son, it's so important to get him around other men. If the dad is absent or he's trash, whatever, get him around other men. Whether if that's in sports, get him around other boys his age, keep him
Mhm.
busy in sports, get him involved in church, and depending on the age, if they're teenagers and stuff like that, just get them around other people because boys need, we need that balance, but I think we need a little more discipline
Mhm.
to make sure that we're legit out here because those same boys that you raised that, that's just mama's boy, those be the ones that the women complain about 20 years from now.
Right. But I do have to say there are some amazing single moms raising young men and doing a great job with it, showing them how to be a gentleman, teaching them things. And They're able, on the opposite end of the spectrum, to be gentle, to share their emotions, to communicate well. Um, so it is a double-edged sword per se, when it comes to that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, shout out to the single moms that's doing it because Lord knows that's it's got to be tough. Uh, what advice would you give to other women going through a divorce or considering starting over?
I think the first thing is, make a list, make a list of why, pray about it. Um, Try counseling first, if that's something, if it's, not something that, you totally, have to, you already know, but know your worth more importantly, and know that having peace and joy in your life, um, know the value of that. And is this partner contributing to that, or causing, throwing a wrench into, your peace and joy?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, because, and I've learned this after divorce, and something I wish I would have took a little more time getting to know who I was as a person, because coming out of a divorce or a long-term relationship, you have to know yourself again. You have to find yourself again. Because you was with this person for X amount of years. Now it's like, I need to know who I am
Right.
in this stage of my life. It just depends on how long the relationship was. I want to end the show with a bonus round.
Okay, let's do it.
You want to do the bonus round? Okay, so these are some random questions, and I just kind of like to have fun. This is Dr. Shepard Uncut. So we're gonna run with these quick questions. What's the biggest mistake you see men make when it comes to dating?
Mm. I feel not being honest, say what you want, mean what you say. Don't try and juggle a bunch of relationships if you have this female thinking that she's the one and only. Um, Allow the other individual to make a choice. I've got a great friend, very close, who's polyamorous. That's not my thing, but I actually have a couple of friends that are. That's their thing. It works for them, but don't meet an individual who is looking for a relationship and lead them on, having them think that, they're the one and only, or they're all that you want. If you want to be out in the streets, or you want to date multiple people, just be up front, and forthright, with that, and allow the other individual the opportunity to make a informed decision for themselves. Um, One of the issues that I had in my marriage is the day that, so my now ex had shared with me he had a 3-year-old son. Well, I found out, and I hadn't met the son, was thinking the son was in another country. And I find out, later on in our marriage, that this 3-year-old son was actually born the day we got engaged, when we were out on a vacation somewhere. So honesty is, a big thing. Let people know, who you really are, and be authentic.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people struggle with that because their fear of, will they like me, or can they accept me for what I'm doing right now? A lot of people kind of like to live in that kind of fear or seem like they're perfect. And it's like we all out here struggling, trying to make it work.
Right. And there wouldn't be shows like Caught in the Act, Unfaithful, or Cheaters, out there if people were transparent. The world's too small. So, I think just lead with honesty and integrity, and true intentions. What are your intentions? When you meet someone, what is your intention? And oftentimes we don't know initially. But as you get to know that person and y'all are developing, something, just be forthright. Because, what's that? What happens in the dark will come out, will come to the light.
Mhm. Oh yeah, that is tried and true. From seeing your parents' relationship, what did it teach you about relationships?
Mm. So my parents divorced when I was in elementary, but one of the things that they never did was talk about each other negatively. They still would come together at the needs, that we would have. And I think I was able to have a different perspective on life because of my relationships with both of my parents. They allowed me to live with whomever, whenever I felt like it.
Mhm.
And not many, have been afforded that opportunity, which of course gave me a completely different perspective on dating. My father was a ladies' man. That's why he and my mother, as well as, his previous wife and some of his girlfriends afterwards didn't last because he had a wandering eye. So I think that goes back to me knowing, I can look for signs and signals. So I normally, know what to look for.
Mhm.
But it also gave me a self-confidence to where I was like, yeah, we're not doing that. And being able to navigate between two different worlds as well. My mom was always in the suburbs, my dad was in the hood.
Mhm.
So I got to see different perspectives of real life. And even today, I have had individuals, comment, "Oh, you reverse in like a dude, or
Yeah.
you have certain, attributes. You like cars, and and I do share some of those loves. I like big toys. I ride motorcycles, all of it. So I think it's given me a great perspective and a balance on how I see situations and relationships. And I think, just being 100% of who you are. And initially, we all try to, once we meet someone, we're putting on that new self. It's like you got that new job. That
Mhm.
first night, why do most jobs have 90-day probation? I had a friend who was a business owner here in Austin, and she's passed away, Joyce Hunt,
Mhm.
and she owned an art gallery called Mitchie's. That was a pillar in the community back in the day. And one of the things that she did is she had a 180-day probationary period. And I said, why do you do that? And she said, because in 90 days, they're not going to show you who they really are. So we need to take that into consideration when we do get into relationships. And I think just a multitude of all of that has shaped how I perceive things.
Yeah, love it. Who makes a better spouse? Someone never married or someone divorced?
I feel like somebody who's been divorced because they've been through some stuff. Like you gotta get some battle wounds. It's like, okay, somebody who's never been in a fight or never ridden a bike and fallen off of it. You just don't have those experiences. Someone who's never been, pulled over for a speeding ticket. Like, you need to have some of those battle wounds, per se, so that you have a better understanding. And that's just my perspective on it.
No, totally get it. Um, that's yeah, and that's a conversation within itself. What's harder for you to say? Is it A, I apologize, B, I need help, C, I love you, or D, I was wrong?
I think for me, the biggest one is I need help because I'm used to being able to navigate, a lot. And as an entrepreneur, it's difficult to ask for help when you need it. And it's not even about feeling weak or feeling less than. I think for me, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't do it and I need help. So it takes me a little bit longer to reach out and actually help, ask for help.
Was it like that in your marriage as well?
Mm. No, I think for me in the marriage, the apologies, the forgiveness was there, the needing help was, yeah, it was probably a little delayed. So yes, it probably was like that, you know. And it became a point where we were cohabitating but living separate lives. We had opposite schedules. He did a lot of international business, so he was working when I'm sleeping, and he's sleeping when I'm working. But I think asking for help. The other parts to me are easy because I recognize, when I'm wrong, when I'm at fault, it may take me a minute to accept it. It may not happen instantaneously where it's like, oh, I'm sorry. No, it might take a little bit, quite a few hours, or maybe even a day or so, to simmer on it. I can be quite stubborn, and I do realize that about myself.
Mhm.
But I'm okay with, asking for forgiveness and apologizing, and all the other aspects. I think the biggest thing is realizing, okay, I need help because I'm not being successful in something. Let me go find someone that's more versed in this discipline, whatever it is, and get some help.
Mhm. Yeah, because I'm learning in this process of vulnerability is just it draws you closer together.
Hmm.
When I start to feel that pride and ego kind of rise up in me, I'm just like, all right, let me shut this down. Let me ask for help, right? Because
Hmm.
my wife and I, we used to all just in competition. We just outdo each other. And I was like, this is not getting us anywhere. So I'm learning that it's okay to ask for help. And a lot of times when you be the example, my old
Hmm.
mentor, he used to tell me, he used to say, when she let out her lion, you let out your lamb, some
Uh,
old school stuff. And he was just basically saying, like, are you willing to be sacrificial? Are you willing to be the first one to take that step into something different?
hmm. That's
So
good.
yeah, that was something that helped me. It's been a struggle, but I'm like, I get it. Last question. Is it easier to love yourself or someone else?
Oh, hands down, it's easier to love myself. 'Cause you can't love someone else if you don't love yourself.
True.
You have to start with self-love, and everything else will fall in line. If you don't have that, then you're looking for that within someone else. No one else can love you the way that you can love you. And I'm one of those. I've always taken myself out on dates, even when I'm married. Look, it's me time.
Yeah.
My friends are like, you'll go to a concert. I will go to a concert by myself. I will go to a movie I enjoy my company,
Yeah.
And so if I can't enjoy me, then how can I love someone?
That's true. That's true. Dr. Shepard, this has been a phenomenal episode. Thank you so much for your time. Can you let everyone know how they can get in touch with you? Anything that you got coming up? Tell us about the business, all the good stuff.
Okay, well, you can like us on Instagram. It's truestopper.com, truestopper.com. If there's any body workers or health professionals out there, I'll be teaching a class with Nat Global. Actually, we're having a webinar in January on CBD. I do have a CBD line of products to help with chronic pain, anxiety, cognitive function, performance recovery, and stress. And so if just reach out. I'm also a healthcare provider. I have a presence in a group called Arasti in Austin. And so I'm doing quite a few things, but if you just reach out, easy to find me. And I'd love to answer some questions, continue the conversation. I appreciate you having me on as a guest. This has been a phenomenal opportunity. And I hope that I was able to at least give someone some perspective.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, everyone make sure you go pick up the products. They work. I use them because Lord knows I'm getting a little older, and I'm also a client as well. So she does phenomenal work. I'm so grateful that we were able to connect. So I'll have everything linked up in the description below. So that way, if anyone wants to make sure that if they want to purchase or anything of that nature, I'll have everything in the description below. If you are watching this via YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, share this with a friend. You never know who needs this. Share it in a group chat with your friends. You just never know what someone is going through. If you are listening to this via podcast, make sure you leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. By doing so, it'll put you in a drawing for a free Amazon gift card. Who doesn't like free stuff? This is Sean Heineman with special guest Dr. Shepard, and we are out. Take care, people.